very warm welcome to one and all present here. Our special welcome to our guest of honor, Shri Ravi Mathur, former CEO GS1 India, and other esteemed guest speakers for day 2 and day 3, and our audiences who are watching us live on social media platform. Once Mahatma Gandhi said, what is really needed to democracy to function is not knowledge of facts, but the right education. Today is truly a moment of pride to Prime Point Foundation for conducting this National Education Conclave with the stalwarts and experts in the field of education. With this, we are sure of making a very strong democracy. As a single petal of flower spreads its fragrance and makes an ease in the ambience, so is this education conclave that intends to a better understanding of this national education policy with its right spirit to spread ease in the ambience. This conclave will intend to deliver from confusion to clarity, from panic to progress, from fear to favor. The discussions will focus on policy, its impacts, the way to implement, and not to forget the COVID's impact. We will talk on preparation, opportunities, and the roadmap of the national education policy in school education, higher education, and in research. With this brief understanding and with no delay, may I request Ms. Susan Koshi, Editor-in-Chief, Presence, to share the welcome address.
Thank you, Priya. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 3-day National Conclave on NEP 2020, Understanding the Right Way. This event is proudly presented by Prime Point Foundation. The founder and chairman of the foundation, Shri K. Srinivasan, should have been rendering this welcome message. Unfortunately, he lost his mother just 4 days ago, and our condolences. Shri Srinivasan is currently in a period of bereavement and mourning, and therefore I am presenting and reading this message on his behalf. A warm welcome to the guests of honor for today, namely Dr. Kamal Singh, CEO and ED, GCNI of UNDP, Shri Ravi Mathur, former CEO, GS1 India, and Dr. Maria Zina Johnson. Both of them have not come yet. She is the Chancellor, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology. Greetings, Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, ED, Madras Management Association, and a very warm welcome to the 6 eminent speakers for the next 2 days session. Ms. Priya will introduce them in the course of today's program. Prime Point Foundation started in July 2000 and has 6 initiatives under its umbrella, namely e-magazine Presence, which spreads positive vibrations through its contents, Education Loan Task Force, which seeks to create awareness among students about education loan facilities, Sansad Ratna Awards, which recognizes and honors top performing parliamentarians, Next Gen Political Leaders, which grooms political leaders and guides them for the next generation, Digital Journalists Association of India, which promotes and encourages journalism, and Digital Security Association of India, which creates awareness among the public on security and cyber laws. All these initiatives are actively managed by experts and professionals. Prime Point Foundation has always been giving importance to the development of knowledge and education. The foundation welcomes the initiative of the Government of India to bring out the National Education Policy 2020 after 34 years. We are confident that NEP 2020 will strengthen the education system and improve the quality of education in India. Before the official approval of NEP 2020, the government had set up 2 committees. The first headed by Mr. T.S.R. Subramaniam and the second headed by Dr. Kasturi Rangan. Both the committees had submitted their draft proposals for public opinion. On both the occasions, Prime Point Foundation took initiatives and organized a panel discussion to discuss and deliberate on the proposals. We are pleased to inform that 2 of our suggestions submitted for consideration find place in the final draft approved by government. These are our 2 suggestions. The first, in line with National Science Foundation of USA, which funds major research projects in the country, we had submitted a written suggestion 2 years ago for a similar single major research funding agency in India. This has been accepted and incorporated in NEP 2020 in the form of National Research Foundation. The second suggestion is for a qualifying eligibility test for school teachers, similar to the national eligibility test for college professors, as this is critical for proper education of the school children. This has also been accepted and incorporated in total. This 3-day conclave will provide us an opportunity once again to discuss and deliberate. The relevant discussion points and suggestions from this conclave will be shared with best performing parliamentarians to take them up at the appropriate time in the Parliament. On this note, I once again welcome all the dignitaries and viewers on this online education conclave. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for a very warm welcome. For today, the guest of honor, we have Ravi Mathur, Mr. Ravi Mathur, who's the former CEO of GS1 India, a standards organization set up by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And we also have Professor Jagannathan Ramasamy, who is a Provost at St. Teresa University, West Indies. So they will be chairing as the guest of honor today. Unfortunately, we don't have Dr. Kamal Singh with us today because he's not keeping well. He just gave us a message that he will have to drop this event for today, and he will be joining us sometime later in due course of the other 2 days which we have in line. So now about Mr. Ravi Mathur, an alumni of IIT Delhi and IIFT Delhi, having a rich experience for about 45 years in the field of sales and marketing and grooming young generation. He has taken leadership roles at the national and international arena. He was the CEO of GS1 India for about 20 years. GS1 standards are accepted as de facto standards in retail in India, besides across 25 other sectors. He was also the member of GS1 Global Management Board, member of GS1 Global Advisory Council for 20 years, and much more. As a chair of expert on food safety of CII for 9 years, member of several FICCI and CII committee on retail, FMCG, TNL, etc. He had a close observation on the skill sets and the proficiency in the corporate industry. Employability is the ultimate focus and need for every student or graduate. As Kofi Annan rightly said, education is the premise of progress. It is the education system that produces creative industries and promising innovations. Let's now hear from the corporate side of employability in respect to the national education policy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for the kind introduction and good afternoon. Let me at the outset applaud a Prime Point Foundation for organizing this important conclave, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of the deliberations. As we all know, NEP 2020 is a landmark policy which has been long overdue, and it has the potential to bring about a paradigm shift in how India develops into a knowledge society of well-thinking and well-meaning people who contribute positively to the development of India and the whole world as responsible global citizens. The need for a thorough revamp of the Indian education system can be gauged from how India fared in the PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment survey, which was conducted by OECD in 2009 to test learning levels of 15-year-old children in reading, mathematics, and science. India stood at 72 amongst 74 participating countries. Another shocking statistic based on recent studies points to the degree of unemployability of Indian graduates and engineers. It is estimated that at least 47% of graduates do not possess skill sets which industry requires today, and 80% of engineering graduates in particular just don't have the knowledge on current industrial applications. Most of them lack technical, cognitive, and linguistic skills required for software-related jobs in startups. Only 3% of engineers have new age technology skills in areas which are booming now, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and mobile development. Subjects are taught in a very theoretical manner in colleges, and only 47% of engineers attend any industry talk. In contrast, the number of engineers in the US who know how to code is almost 4 times that of engineers. The same story repeats for management graduates. According to a recent study by Arjun, 93% of management graduates from approximately 5,500 B schools in the country are unemployable, barring a handful from top business schools. Many of these subpar graduates result in pass outs who earn even less than 10,000 rupees per month. This happens due to decay in the standards of B schools, many of which are not properly regulated. With half of India's 1.3 billion population below the age of 25, the job crisis amongst educated youth is almost like a ticking time bomb. NEP 2020 promises to make sweeping reforms in education and research while creating new opportunities for lifelong learning and making it industry-oriented with emphasis on entrepreneurship. NEP aspires to make the young generation more imaginative, innovative, ingenious, proactive, pioneering, and prospect-oriented. Integration of vocational education with educational offerings in all institutions and mapping of local opportunities will develop entrepreneurial competencies besides capacities and will go a long way to make vocational education a part of the larger vision of holistic education. NEP provides for rigorous research-based specialization by giving opportunities for multidisciplinary work. Closer collaboration between industry and institutions will drive innovation and research and is actively encouraged in the NEP for technical education in particular. This is proposed to be done through the creation of a national committee on integration of vocational education and the National Research Foundation to seed, grow, and facilitate research by funding competitive proposals by liaison between researchers and relevant branches of industry. The establishment of a National Education Technology Forum to advance digital learning and e-content in 8 regional languages will greatly help in aligning graduates in regional languages with job opportunities. NEP aspires to combine traditional knowledge with modern thinking and introduces vocational education from elementary schools. It also attempts to transform education planning, teaching, and learning assessment. The mandatory teaching of an Indian language will protect and promote our linguistic and cultural diversity. The proposed reform in school curricula and pedagogy, a transparent process for teacher orientation, merit-based promotion and development of a national professional standards body for teachers, setting up of a gender inclusion fund and of special education zones for disadvantaged regions and groups will empower the academic fraternity. Changes like Parak, the performance assessment, review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development, will redesign assessment and standardize education boards across the country. The multiple exit and re-entry system, credit transferability across universities, and multidisciplinarity in higher education will provide flexibility to students. Internationalization of education will be facilitated through international collaboration, student and faculty exchange programs, and by allowing top-ranked international universities to open campuses in India. In the current pandemic circumstances, with virtual learning replacing in-person learning experience, students and teachers have been compelled to reimagine conventional learning and teaching techniques. Introduction of the NEP at such a critical juncture is significant, as it details the vision of education for future generations and will be a quintessential tool towards building a self-reliant India. A robust digital infrastructure which ensures uninterrupted learning even during unprecedented circumstances needs to be created. A key concern, however, will be that only 4.4% of households have computers, as per a survey done in 2017-18. While internet facility is available in only 23.4% of urban households and 14.9% of rural households. The rapid rollout of the Digital India campaign and the availability of affordable computing devices would be critical if technology is to play its role in the success of NEP 2020. The way forward for successful implementation of NEP 2020. NEP 2020 must consider linking the RTE to the goal of universalization of education at pre-primary, middle, and secondary levels. Without this legal backing, NEP's targets will remain unmet. Number two, successful implementation will require different types of interventions, which include coordination and cooperation between center and states, legislative interventions, increase in budgetary allocations, and regulatory reforms. Number three, since education is a concurrent subject, a collaborative strategy with states over the 3 language formulas will need to be evolved. Number four, specific, time-bound, and measurable commitments linked with accountability about funding and expenditure would need to be developed and maintained. Next, children and parents must be kept at the center of implementation plans, and choices must be provided not just in letter, but in spirit as well. Metrics for evaluation of the proposed framework for foundation learning must be laid out. The policy must incorporate a common school system which will ensure equal opportunities for all. A national higher education philanthropy council needs to be constituted with private sector participation, since 70% of Indian students study in private higher education institutions. It would look at incentivizing potential donors for establishing endowment funds. The vision of institutions of eminence, IOEs, needs to be integrated with the NEP implementation plan, and IOEs need to be empowered with more freedom, flexibility, autonomy, and resources. A national NEP implementation standing committee with select vice chancellors and directors of institutes needs to be set up to monitor NEP implementation in a time-bound manner. In conclusion, the implementation of NEP will depend on 4 sequential points: preparation, tracking, support, and review. If done with sincerity and in collaboration with all stakeholders, the NEP can leapfrog India and enable it to assume its rightful place in global knowledge society. Thank you, and my best wishes for a very successful conclave.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, that has got a lot of information. It's like too much of research from your end. We're so glad that you could give us so much of input from the corporate's perspective. And we would surely like to have a copy of it, sir, so that we could try pulling out the best of the relevant points, which we can actually take it elevated further. And we'll see what best can we do from the amount of homework which you have actually put into the best implementation of NEP in the corporate sector. So now we have Dr. Professor Jagannathan. He is a provost from St. Teresa University, West Indies. So before having a professor have his word, I have just received a message from our another guest of honor from Satyabama University, Madam Dr. Maria Gina Johnson, who had to be with us. She just texted me saying one of her very close friends is down with COVID and is in a very critical situation. So she wanted to manage to be with us today, but she has just texted her regrets of not being with us today. And we would surely try fixing her in any of the other 2 days, so that we can get to hear her perspective as well. So can we have to, now we have to hear from Professor Dr. Jagannathan, Provost, St. Teresa University, Chairman of the Senate, former Vice Chancellor, Middle East University. He's a visiting professor to many leading universities across the globe. He's also an IRCA certified ISO lead auditor. He is the co-founder and president of Digital Security Association of India, one of the initiatives of Prime Point Foundation. And he was very critical in giving us the points which we have actually raised to the government of India when the policy was in its preparatory stage, when the policy was before its inception, where we had given about 12 points as a suggestion. So Professor Jagannathan has been very crucial in sharing his ideas and giving his thoughts over those suggestions. So over to you, sir. Can we hear from you about NEP, the intent and its progress?
Good evening to everyone in the Zoom meeting and also those who are following in the Twitter and Facebook. So good evening to everyone. The national education policy has come at the right time as far as our country is concerned. For the sake of the younger friends who have been following in the Twitter and Facebook, I would like to spend about a minute or two in tracing the history of how the education has been progressing in our country, and also now under what circumstances Government of India has decided to revamp it, and with what motives and with what inspirations it has been trying to do this. And the final result, as we see, is the National Education Policy 2020. By the time we got our independence, when we have to man our own government officers like the district collector officers, taluk officers, like that, we needed suddenly a large number of graduates. So the Government of India took a conscious decision in creating a 3-year degree program instead of the universal 4-year degree programs, the BA, BSc, BCom, because we needed graduates to fill up these vacancies. So we have been coping up with the ad hoc arrangement, and then once that need was over in about some 10 to 15 years time, then India concentrated on building its own engineers, doctors, auditors, scientists, everyone. So by the turn of the century, and especially in the last 10 years, what the present Government of India has been thinking was that we want to produce engineers, but of world class. We want to produce doctors who are world class. So everyone, whether it's a lawyer or scientist or anybody, we wanted to produce a world class output. So when we have been doing like that, the gap between the existing educational system and what's been required to produce these changes, the gap is enormous. So the Government of India has decided a historic point of spending about 6% of the GDP on the revamping of the education system instead of the current 1 to 1.2%. That's a tremendous thing. So when that has been planned, then how to go about doing the revamping? So the government of India has taken into confidence and taken into account the diverse traditional and practices and the population distribution of our country. It has taken into account. Then it was consulting some senior experts, outstanding experts of India who have been working in leading universities of the world, like in the outstanding US universities, Canadian universities, and other places. They have consulted. And also they have been taken into account the experts from the AIMS and other very highly specialized medical institutions of our country to work on, to know from the mechanisms by which the human brain works at the age of the school-going students and children, so that the learning process should be tuned to that, so that there will be optimum output. And also it has taken into account the opinion of the senior teachers and senior professors from the academia in India. Plus, one more thing, it has taken the best possible aspects from the educational system in Finland. Why Finland? If you just ask any student in the school-going age in India, what do you want to become? They will say, I want to become a doctor. I want to become an engineer. Like that they will say. But if you ask any student of the school-going age or their parents in Finland, they will say, I want to become a teacher. So the best possible educational system in the world is now on this planet is in Finland. So the government of India has made a very thorough analysis and they extracted the best aspects from that and it has incorporated it in our thing. So the NEP really gives us a path for optimum development of our children and students to face the world during the next 35 years. Once this has been said, then what is the next thing that we have to be worried about is that if you just see how to go about that, we wanted to have a very strong system of school education so that the children are given the best possible education, so that when they come to the university education, they will be in a position to receive the benefits of the higher education. If they have been spoiled in the school itself, then however best an educational system you provide at the college or the university level may not be producing that optimum result. So they wanted to strengthen the school educational system. This becomes a big challenge because about 60% of our population is living in rural areas, tribal areas, and culturally different multitude of languages. All these things are posing a very great problem. Plus, they wanted to at the same time establish parallelly institutions or higher educational institutions in every district, at least in 718 districts. They wanted to establish institutions of higher education and research. Why? See, the best example comes from Germany. In Germany, in 1917, when these Nobel Prizes have been started giving from 1901, they have decided we must have the institutions of excellence in every part of Germany. And now we have 86 Max Planck Institutes. The Max Planck Institutes are the institutions of highest degree of research almost in the world. So now as a result, during the last 100 years, Germany has got about 109 Nobel Prizes. So if you just see, Finland, which has a population of only 50 lakhs, has got 5 Nobel laureates. The USA, which has only 1/4 of our population, about 40 crores population, they have 450 Nobel laureates. And UK, just 7 crores population, UK, Germany, Sweden, France, they have some 70 Nobel laureates, 33 Nobel laureates, 109 Nobel laureates, like that. So the government of India thought that once we strengthen the school educational system and then provide the appropriate higher educational system at the university or college level, then that will be the best bet as far as India is concerned. Once that's been done, coming back to the school education, what the government of India thought was that now we have the right to education. But the government of India thought that it should be right to free education up to the 12th grade. It's a tremendous milestone decision taken by the government of India. Then, we know most of the children in India coming from rural background, tribal background, they go to the school without even eating the breakfast. So the government of India has told that it will be mandatory that all the students will be provided nutritious breakfast at the school. That takes care of, because this is in addition to the nutritious noon meal scheme that we are having already in the country. So once we are ensuring the health of the students and also the right to free education up to the 12th grade, then seamlessly they can get educated. Then the next point, the aversion for students, school children from going to the school comes from the rote learning and also by hearting procedures and the weightage of the book bag. So that has been now reduced. The rote learning is replaced by practical trainings and internships from the 6th standard onwards. So these things make an excellent platform for a springboard for a new invigorated school educational system as far as India is concerned. Then the next component that is needed as far as school education is concerned is the quality of the teachers. Not just the teachers, but the quality of the teachers. So now there will be a national eligibility test. Only those people who are clearing will be the teachers in the schools from as per the National Education Policy 2020. There is already a net slot available for the college teachers appointment, but there is no such provision available for school teachers so far in the 70-year history of India. So now we have been making it mandatory that anyone who aspires to become a school teacher must have passed this national eligibility test. Also, the B.Ed program or the B.Ed program is not an eye-watching 1 year or 2 year or a correspondence or in absence can be obtained a degree. It will be a 4-year rigorous training going through the mechanisms of teaching the young brain. So, and also then, if you make it like this, will people come over for teaching at the school level? The salary structure is increased. The need of the teachers at the rural levels are taken care of and addressed in the NEP 2020. And also another remarkable thing the government of India has done is that the top 10% of the students in the colleges and universities, they will be given 100% scholarship if they choose to become a teacher in a school in the rural area. That's a tremendous incentive that's been offered by the government of India. And also this will also be not only taking care of the needs of the aspiring teachers of the rural areas, but also it makes them to feel the job as a proud job. They can take pride in saying that I am a school teacher. So when these things have been addressed, then next what we want is that as far as the college level is concerned, now we are having 50 percent of the GDP is the gross enrollment ratio. We want it to be around 50% as per the NEP. That's a tremendous task. The number of universities now, we have some 860 universities in the country, should be at least double the next 15 years. It's a hilarious task. So for that, what the government of India has done is that it has now created a new system, that is a new body, the Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, which will be comprising of the ministers, educationists, and members of the civil society, but this will be headed and steered by the Prime Minister himself for the first time in the history of India. It's a tremendous thing. Once we have been saying that all these things are being laid out, then do we have any system by which the teachers can keep continuously improving themselves? See, I remember during my visits to the US often, I find even children at the 5th standard are being evaluated by a board exam. Had it been in many states in India, we will say that at a 5th grade level, if you conduct a board exam, it's a cruelty and people will start crying. But now, how the system works in the US is that if the students get a very good mark, the credit goes to the students and parents. If they get a very poor mark, then the school and the county will analyze the reason, and send the corresponding teacher for higher education, refresher course, and orientation course. Whether the student performs well or not, in either way, it is towards a good cause. So as a result, it doesn't in any way reflect upon the students or parents. So now we have a system of Swayam, Diksha, which will be providing pathways for teacher upliftment. And also, we will be having multidisciplinary educational research institutes like the Max Planck Institute of Germany, which will be established in almost every district in India by 2030. That will be a tremendous through, and it will be even developed countries like France, US, USSR will be envious of us if we can do that. So as a result, when we just do that, also parallelly to avail the best available in the educational system, India is opening up the country for the best institutions, best universities from the world to open their shops here in India. Then, what is the immediate advantage of that? Our students will be getting the same education in India, so they need not travel that long. Then second thing, their cost of education is now reduced. Then the third thing, there will be the faculties of Indian scientists, Indian process can interact with those process, and there will be a synergetic feedback or interactive energy communicator between the two, and in the long run, it will be helping the academia in the country. So as a result, now what happens is that a wholesome arrangement and a wholesome development is being contemplated, and irrespective of the small pitfalls that have been reported and debated by the different political parties and the different systems in the country. For example, most of the people are saying that whether the engineering is on the wane now, whether it is now decreasing, the demand for engineering is in demand because many of the engineering colleges are being closed. But now remember, now we have a Make in India movement, and we have about 5 crore MSMEs, and government has made it mandatory that 30% of the procurement must be done from MSMEs. So that means the number of engineers India needs is a very, very, very large number. But what the industry wants is that the students, the engineering graduates should have understood the subject, they should articulate themselves well, and then they should be interested in working well in a team as well as alone in a focused way. So that means the employment opportunity is really very good, provided we have the right attitude, knowledge, and competence and skill. Provided if the 4 years of time that we spend in the college or university, of course, now we have got flexible system of higher education being introduced as part of NEP. Academic bank will be created, credit bank will be created, so that the hassle of storing the mark sheets and other things will not be there. Even the employment agencies will be now digitally, they will be verifying. You need not produce attested copies. So all these technologies have been utilized by the NEP fully. But the human part of it have been very well addressed. So that's the strength of NEP. I hope, absolutely, I don't have any doubt that the coming 2 or 3 decades, India will be leapfrogging towards the advancements, and probably instead of being a developed country, we may become a developed country. Probably, I now feel I should have been studying the school or college now, but the only thing is my age is now 70, so I have missed the bus. So we have learned the education in the hardest way possible. But anyhow, this is absolutely good as far as a multicultural, multi-strata, multi-society country like India. This is the best possible imaginary solution. So I wish the NEP 2030 to be a grand success, and the people accept in the right way and the right spirit and get benefited out of the system, so that India can become the best country. If the students get educated like this, it's good for the students, good for their family, good for the society, good for our country. So let's make India big. Thank you. Nice of you. All of you have
Thank
a
you.
good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. That was a very clear understanding of what NEP could be, because no wonder he has done a great research on the points of NEP, because there was an extensive thought process given when we had actually come up with this idea of NEP. We also have Group Captain Vijay Kumar with us, who is one of our knowledge partners, and he is from MMA, Madras Management Association, and he has just done a similar program on NEP just about a couple of days before, with the best of experts which we could ask. So now that we've got about a couple of minutes more for the minister to be on board with us, so Vijay Kumar sir, if you could just give us some insights of yours of how and how is the perspective of NEP. Yes, I know it is a policy, end of the day it is to the discretion of the both state and the center, majorly the discretion of the state here. So what is your perspective of it, sir? How are people taking it?
Thank you, Priya. This is real googly. I am not an expert on new education policy, but we have done quite a bit of. We have not done the work. We have made people to come and speak on our platform on new education policy. So what we have done, we have requested Professor Joseph Kurian from New Delhi, the institute which really authored the whole NEP. We brought him to speak. Along with him, we got Professor Rishikesh. He came and spoke along with him. And Rishikesh is a member of the group which really authored the whole education policy. And my understanding of education policy is, as Professor Jagannathan rightly said, I can really remember of the quote which comes to mind. It is there is only one thing which is stronger than all the armies of the world. That is an idea whose time has come. That is Victor Hugo, the famous French poet, said that. So that is what comes to my mind when I talk about it, because the new education policy idea has come. Now, one thing very important is a landmark policy in a sense. It's created a lot of interest in the people. That shows, yes, we are concerned about the education policy, right from school level to up to the top level, including PhD and beyond that, actually. And it also brings in a lot of skill, which has to be, given a lot of opportunity. One thing we have to understand the mindset of India, because even in India, we don't take failures as a success, actually, because when somebody drops out and somebody goes to other stream and all, we always thought, this guy is gone. They write us off. Till the mindset of the people, a lot of change, which is very, very important for successful implementation of this policy, because it got some radical decision-making, radical system, which is very, very essential, as Dr. Jagannath said, as Ravi Mathur said. That is the only thing which will create employable opportunities for all the people who will pass out. Imagine so many millions of children pass out from various levels, including college, and you don't get a job. What is going to happen is very, very serious issue. Another issue, what really came out during the discussion about the federal structure. Our structure is where the states are responsible for total implementation of the educational policy. It's a state subject. Whether the central government will be able to effectively implement the national education policy, go up to the last mile at each village, though the IT is very well connected nowadays, but will they be able to do that? There is a lot of questions to be answered, but still the center has to take state at all level. One thing many people discussed is, before the policy rolled out, they wish they could have involved the state like the way they involved during GST implementation, where the state is part of the main thing and they could do that in a big way. So it would have been easy and successful, because it is a teamwork if you could have implemented. Another thing which came quite discussed during our meeting is the three-language policy, which everybody thought about it. And personally, many felt three-language policy is very good. Personally, I felt, because I am from the state of Tamil Nadu, we never studied Hindi because we took part in anti-Hindi agitation. When we joined the forces, we knew that how important is another language. It really helped us. Like my children being in armed forces, they know a couple of languages. I know how good it is. So another important insight which came is that the number of people who appear for Hindi examination in Tamil Nadu is the highest in the national level, which is the conducted by Hindi Prachara Sabha. What is it all indicated, actually? People really want to learn three languages. And they also talked about the children exam at the age of 3. This is one question everybody was asking. How can the children of 3 years, 3rd standard, 4th standard can be given an exam? This is one thing which also came during the policy discussion. But what the Professor Mathur said, it is the examination not to test the students actually, what thing. It is also to test the educators, how well they could able to convey what they wanted to convey to the children. Maybe there are a couple of very radical, very outstanding points are there, and how is going to be there. It all can be implemented. I think we got next 2 days. We are going to discuss. I wish we are going to attend to all these areas, which is very, very important.
Very true. So I'm so sorry I'm interrupting. The reason why I wanted you to be, giving us a little insight in this front is because you have been doing extensive programs after, one-on-one. And when you have been talking with the corporates, you have been talking with the educationists, you also have been talking with the government officials in different perspective on different topics. So you, just to understand how are the dots being connected. It is a very exciting policy. It is very promising. It does look very lucrative. And it is obviously, I wish I could have been in such a kind of an education policy, which gives a holistic approach to any student to learn. But when you're trying to, fill in the gaps or, try to connect the dots, that's where the entire, the entirety comes out. So in that perspective, how is how are the people, how is the industry taking this, is what I'm trying to ask.
Is very supportive of this policy, because at the end of the day, what industry needs, it needs the people who are well qualified. When they come in, they are able to deliver what the industry needs in terms of skill. So when you branch out for skilling, like Jagannathan said, the German model is worked, and it can work in Germany. Why not in India actually? So it has been tested in many countries, but there are certain things where some of the policies which the people want to implement is being reviewed in some of the countries, because that's a very controversial thing. We don't know what is reviewed, what is not there. But one thing I'm sure, the one thing which is very, very clear is how to train the trainers, the teachers. The teachers training has been given a lot of attention to things, and that is one area. As Dr. Jagannathan brought out, the top 10 people have been given scholarship or given special incentive for taking up teaching actually. Now, how many people really take to teaching? I remember, if any of our families, we tell them we want to be a teacher, they'll say, no, you be a chartered accountant, be an engineer, you be other thing, because they thought that they are the one which is bringing. They don't understand today teachers get equal pay like any other best of the professions actually. And teachers can, especially if you are in a teaching higher institutions, you can do phenomenal research, you can be a consultant, you can be a scholar. There's so much of opportunities. So new education policy opens up, and it also says the ratio of the teachers versus students that have been discussed in detail. But this also got to do with our financial ability to really subsidize school education by taking smaller numbers and with the number of teachers ratio. That is 1:30, 1:35, and those things are done. There are also information on RTA implementation of how to do that. There are some of the things which have been really discussed are very, very good actually. The teachers ratio is what they suggested is a preferred ratio, and what they said, it's a policy. So one should not take it very, very seriously that no, it's the do or die, it's a Buddha bed. No, it is an opportunity for each one of us. It's an idea whose time has come. So people should take it.
Actually, that's why they say when you're a teacher or you're a mother for a life and you're a teacher for a lifetime. I'm like, that's a lifetime commitment you take up when you get into the teaching industry. So now I also wanted to take Alexander Sir's idea on that. So how do you see from the administrative perspective, because you have been a professor, you have been a principal, you have gradually grown the ladder from a teacher to an administrator. So how do you see this NEP, the intent of it, and what is the clarity you have for it, sir?
Unmute yourself, sir.
No, you're mute.
Yeah. Okay, I'm audible. Yeah. That is a very good question. In fact, I thought I would deserve it for my talk. I've been, unfortunately, during my period of active professorship, I have hardly heard about NEP. 1986, I joined the faculty, and 2020, I retired as the principal and secretary. And all these 34 years of service, I hardly have noticed the impact of, the then policy which they enacted in 1986, or to say, in its fullest form. But then, as an administrator, in fact, I'm going to emphasize on that. It is good to float a number of ideas, number of thoughts. In fact, I was completely zapped by Dr. Ramaswamy's presentation. of comparing, India with Germany, Finland, and so on and so forth. But then, in terms of implementation, it is very important that we are able to make things happen. Because if it is there in mere words and documents, and it is not going to be made use of in our routine things, ultimately, I think we should aim at the bottom line. I mean, it looks nice, very, it's a sugar-coated, material. But then when it comes to implementation, because we are the people who are working in grassroots. In fact, I'm very happy, that I'm working in an engineering institution now. Dr. Ramaswamy's word has been very handy because we have about 13 engineering departments, Make in India program. Of course, the institution where I'm there right now has come up with novel artificial intelligence impregnated material. So that is very important. Communication is very important. To convince people is very important. And the entire aim of this NEP is that the theory is going to be put into practice. I think that is very important. And also the professors' enhancement of knowledge and real commitment. I think for both students and the faculty, what we need to provide at this point in time, words of encouragement. You can make it. You have to do it. And rightly pointed out, mother for life and teacher for a lifetime. I think we need to impregnate into the minds of these people, energize them, and I'm sure that we will definitely be able to be optimistic in implementing NEP 2020 the most successful way. And I'm sure that what had happened with 1968, the new policy on education, the same with 1986, should and never happen with regard to NEP 2020. And I think people who have swam in education, higher education, as a student, as a professor, as an administrator, we will take it on ourselves to see to that I think a large percentage of what has been projected, beautiful document, I think sees the light of the day.
True, sir. Absolutely true.
So
if I can just, yes, sir, please. Yes, sir, please, sir.
The national education policy has now been ratified, approved by the Union Ministry and also accepted by the Government of India as its policy. And the UGC is now inviting suggestions and recommendations on the procedures and rules and regulations on how this can be implemented. The implementation details they are soliciting from the public, experts, and everyone in the country. And the last date is October 30th. We have another 12 days time available. So anybody who is following this in the Zoom meeting and also in the Twitter or Facebook can write to the UGC directly any of their wishes, how this can be implemented or how this can be done like that. The implementation procedures and rules and regulations, the UGC is inviting, and the last date is October 30th of 2020. So people can do that and respond. Thank you.
That's really a handy information. So I think that's the need of the hour. Students, most of them petrified of what to be doing next. So if I could just pull in Dr. Tarun Arora, because he is into the legal faculty, and the second thing, the law faculty, and the second thing is like he has been very closely associated with students when it comes to skill development, because he has been in the youth parliament, and I see him doing a lot of programs which promote this the student perspective beyond the academic arena, which could have been earlier, ideas of what we thought education is all about. So the skill set development has become the demand of the hour. Skill set is what everybody is looking at now. It doesn't matter which college, which school you're from, but actually what skill set you have in your booty is actually that adds value to your profile. So such being the case, how do you see NEP, sir? Dr. Tarun.
Thanks, Dr. Ms. Priya. In fact, what I view, because being an educationist as well as an environmentalist, basically my field of specialization is environmental law and sustainable development goals. So the first thing which made me happy was in that calibration of NEP in context of SDG 4, that is inclusive education. And apart from that, so far as skill development is concerned, the NEP in words, and it has the vision to incorporate the goal of promoting the scientific temperament. And I had been discussing about scientific temperament as a fundamental duty under the Constitution of India since the joining of my career about last 20 years. And hardly we came across the people who were aware about their fundamental duties in reality. Even in the teaching fraternity, when we had examined and we had collected the information to submit LLM dissertation in Master of Laws, there were only a few people who were aware about the fundamental duties. So the another distinguishing feature of this NEP is that it is in consonance with fundamental duty given under the Constitution Article 51A(h) to develop the scientific temper, humanism, spirit of inquiry, and reform. So when we look at the holistic perspective of education, we are expected to develop the critical thinking of the stakeholders. It is basically not about the rote learning. We have to nurture the capability among the students to think beyond the traditional mindset. And then when it is a question of humanism, there are lot many clauses in NEP about the vocational studies, vocational subjects, even community development college, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. These are some of the schemes introduced by the NDA government during last NDA 1 regime. So the students are expected to means adopt a village, and in that village they will have to go for inculcating the sustainable development practices in use of natural resources. Fine. So far as vocational and the skill development is concerned, presently what we view and how do we view about being involved in the administration of this university. Ours is a new university, just 10 years old, under the aegis of central government. And what we feel that in the days to come, we will have to develop our infrastructure. And infrastructural constraints are there so far as schools are concerned, so far as secondary education is concerned, senior higher education is senior higher secondary is concerned, as well as graduation, post graduation. Means a lot of things have to be transformed. So let's see what is in the days to come with the government. And we have also constituted a committee to implement the NEP, because the syllabuses across India, first of all, the central universities, IITs and IIMs have taken the lead to recalibrate, reconfigure their educational curriculum in accordance with NEP, because multiple entries and multi-exit system. So we will have to recalibrate it. And even
if I may just ask another question to this, how has this COVID situation hampered? In fact, I would want all of you to give me a quick idea of how has this COVID impacted this new education policies, probably, I shouldn't say implementation, but the excitement of taking it on board immediately.
Not much, because the students are in touch, and we are already offering the online classes since 22nd of March, and the results were declared in time. There is not much effect only, but the thing is the students were not here in the campus, and we have the students from 28 states and 7 nations, and the students now are at home, but the classes are going on regularly, and we do discuss NEP. And every week we have one or other occasion in which our university administration keeps on organizing, looking at and elaborating NEP from one perspective, from the perspective of scientists, from the perspective of social scientists, from the perspective of humanities. Even our new Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, who has just joined during this COVID situation, defeating all the odds, he is very enthusiastic in keeping the people update and about NEP. So the students are enthusiastic, and even my own son, he says, Papa, if I will go to school only if the new education policy is introduced. And I asked, how do you, he's just in standard third. And I asked, how do you know about new education policy? 8 years old kid. And then he said, you were discussing with Mama, and I came across this, that in new education policy, we will be having a kind of playway method of learning. So this is how the students are taking it. And multiple entry and multiple exit is certainly, even in the field of law, if you can recollect, that if we introduce law of pleading, law of limitation, law of registration, and negotiable instrument act in the very first year, and we give it after the completion of first year, we offer them a PG diploma, because LLB 3-year course is introduced after completing the graduation. So if the student completes first year, they can be rewarded with PG diploma in law, basic laws. So immediately after completion of PG diploma, if they want to exit, they can exit. But within 5 years, they will have to resume the study. This is what I am going to propose to the Bar Council of India. And because if they want to exit, they can be a kind of literate clerk, having legal literacy, assistant to the advocates. If you look at the now present munshi system in the courts, वो मुंशी को उतना basic clarity नहीं है. He is just typing assistant and having shorthand. But if we introduce some of the papers in the first year, like pleading drafting, negotiable instrument, limitation and specific relief act, along with the value-added courses of typing and shorthand, certainly it is going to add a feather in their cap. And after second year, we are already giving them an academic degree. And if they pursue third year, they will be given a professional degree. And if they pursue fourth year, then they can be given LLM, LLB, LLM integrated course. So this is how I am thinking to recalibrate our law curriculum.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I also received from the message from the minister's office that he is still held up in his meeting at Jaipur, a top level meeting at Jaipur with the BJP officials. So that's the message I'm getting from his office. So I would surely request him to be with us probably at any of his relevant, a flexible time of his, which he can be with us in the other 2 days, which we have with us handy. And so with this, if I could request the group captain, Vijay Kumar sir, to share your vote of thanks, and then we call it a day, and then we will be continuing our session 2 tomorrow. We have the session 3 day after. The session 2 starts by 4 p.m. tomorrow, and the session 3 starts day after tomorrow, 4 p.m. So once Vijay Kumar sir finishes his vote of thanks, then I will quickly give you an understanding about what will we do tomorrow and day after. Yes, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for choosing MMA as one of the knowledge partners. I know how much you are good in NEP, but surely we discussed. And as you said, the pandemic time, it's given more opportunity for people to discuss about new education policy. Otherwise, they would have been busy with the regular thing. Now they had the time, they are able to pay some attention. And organizing a conclave of this magnitude over 3 days requires tremendous amount of preparation. That way, I must compliment Prime Point Foundation and especially Mr. Srinivasan, who was unable to join us, for putting this together and presenting a great conclave, which is going to be there, because there are many issues which many people wanted clarification. I'm quite sure. I saw that the list of speakers, they are outstanding, and they are going to go to add a lot of value. And coming to today's thing, let me first thanks Ms. Susan Koshi for Editor-in-Chief Free Sense for, as usual, in a typical style, delivering the formal welcome address that really makes us feel at home, feel good. Thank you, Susan, for doing that for us, and it set the tone, I think. And Mr. Ravi Mathur, former CEO of GS India, for delivering the special address during the session, sir. And thank you for joining us and sharing your insights on the theme which is going to come. And I'm quite sure it set the tone. And also, Jagannath Ramaswamy, sir, as usual, it shows the wisdom of your education and all that you have got, which you shared with us this evening. Really is very good because, as I mentioned, is going to be set the stone, set the context for the discussion. I'm quite sure the next 2 days people should listen to your speech and they will really know what exactly is the outcome, and they should start taking leave of some of the points what you brought out to discuss in the deliberations. And thank you so much, sir. It's especially you were referring to Germany and Nobel laureate. I think it's very important why we cannot get more Nobel laureates. We also get it other than education. I think science and technology, you must get that. And as Mr. Arjun Ram Meghwal is unable to come, as Priya said, and I'm quite sure he'll join us and enlighten us during the course of his free time, because his joining will add tremendous value to programs of this nature. And Alexander Jesudasan and Tarun Arora for sharing your insight, which is very important. It's always a pleasure to listen to Dr. Alexander because, again, your clarity on the subject and your thought, your insights is very interesting for us to listen to you. And Tarun Arora, it's always good to listen to your advocate because you bring your points very in the right perspective for the people who can't say anything. And your way of telling it how the LLM is going to be awarded is really interesting, actually. I wish a lot of people get on to the thing, because I firmly believe everybody should study law because it makes them more wiser and smarter. And also people from Prime Point Foundation who made this possible, this event, the technical team who have been taking this event live and all the time constantly getting us update, all sound system, everything is good. That shows the professionalism of an organization. Very important to see that everything, not only you just put it on the air and live it, but they also see that it reaches the end point where correct. So I think the NEP also, not that you just put it on the air, a policy, they must make sure it goes till the end and it implemented very well. Again, once again, not the least, really miss you, Mr. Srinivasan. You are there. We miss you, but we really convey our sincere condolences. I know, Mother. May God give you all the strength, and thank you so much once again for each one of you on a Sunday to join us this evening on a very important subject. And thank you, and have a great weekend. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, Vijay Kumar, sir.
Beautifully,
summed up. And I would also want to take one Srinivasa Gopal, who has been our technical support. Srinivasa Gopal, can you please turn on your video? Yeah. So he has been the pillar behind, who has been helping me thick and thin. So thank you, Srinivasa Gopal, for being such a wonderful help and having that spirit of taking this forward. Thank you so much for being with me. And so tomorrow we will be having the day 2 of the conclave. So we will be discussing on the topic, preparing the schools with the system. And we have Provost Jagannathan sir with us, who will be sharing his ideas. And we also have Dr. Amita Mullah Vatal, who is the principal of School Tales. And we also have Shri Ashok Pandey, Director, Alcon Group of Schools. They will be sharing their perspective on this topic. And on day 3, we have NEP for universities and its opportunities. So we have Dr. Alexander, Pro Vice Chancellor, Hindustan University. We have Professor Ramesh from IIM Bangalore, so he hasn't been with us today. And we have Professor Tarun Arora, who will also share his, ideas about NEP for universities and its opportunities. So I'm sure it's going to be a great conclave. I'm very excited to have learned so much in this day. And I'm so glad that I'm so blessed that I'm going to learn more in the couple of days in this conclave. Looking up to your continued support, and please do share any of your ideas or any of your comments which you think which can make this policy roll in the spirit which has actually been created. So thank you so much once again for being with us, and thanks a lot.
One last thing, I think, yes. My apology. We missed to thank most important person of the evening who really put together Priyadarshini Rahul. It always happens, the person who really works get really neglected because in my excitement, I thought I was finishing, and thanks Priya, you have been putting things together, taking it so beautifully and bringing the best of the thing and managing so time in spite of the people coming and not coming. That kudos to you. Wonderful. Thank you. And once again, very, very.
Can I have a word, please?
Yes, sir.
Priya, can I have a word, please? Yeah.
Yes, sir, please.
Sitting here from 3 o'clock, I think the time that we spent here, I think I was more not for speaking, but more of listening and taking notes. In fact, I always try to be a student, taking every bit of it. And the point that I think Dr. Arora made is very important, because when I was there in the other institution, I used to tell my secretary that I'm a secretary to secretary. The point is that what he was typing, what he was handling, he couldn't really comprehend. And secretaries they need to be more knowledgeable than executives themselves. And the exit education that we are talking about, that one could leave at certificate level, diploma level, will give them a basic understanding of what material they are handling, grappling with. And instead of simply coming, just like that to serve as a secretary, it's better that such opportunities are available for those who cannot go beyond a particular level, and they have the basics of that area, and then come and join, so that the full involvement is there. Eventually, what happens is that the involvement of people are not there in the work. That the love and the passion that they have in what they handle is unfortunately not seen. They just come for the wages, they just come for the timing and leave. But then imagine if everyone is going to be applying ourselves, with passion and dedication and commitment and knowledge, I think we would be able to turn, the scenario that is present today into something that will be other. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Dr. Tarun Arora had to say something. You were about to say something?
I was just saying that we wish to associate with Captain R. Vijay Kumar's proposal to vote of thanks towards.
In fact, that's a very valid point. Having smart clerical assistants is a very, very important thing, because you end up doing the work twice. You have to undo the work and then you have to do the work. So that's like doing the work twice.
Because
it's better that we do it ourselves without a secretary.
So that's very important.
The professional training, drafting and all. And it's very easy for us to, means we can save the resources, because the time is very precious for us.
True, very true. And Ravi Mathur, sir, thank you so much for your beautiful analysis. In fact, that gave a complete different perspective to how the corporate is viewing national education policy and the skill sets which we actually have to incorporate. And it is truly a lot of points which we have to take back from your speech. And I would request you to share the copy with us so that we can see how effective can we take it on board.
Sure, I'll do that, Priya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, everybody. And thanks for this beautiful evening this Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.